It has been 6 months of Rasmus HOJLUND at Manchester United, and whereas it's early days to judge him, it is right for us to scrutinize whatever he does because many of us have expected that he could be our next Wayne Rooney. Welcome to the United of Sport. My name is Webb, and here is the scorecard of our £72 million striker, Rasmus HOJLUND. Now, listen, in the last summer transfer window, you could debate who the player we waited for the most was because United were desperate to sign players. We waited for Andre Onana like the Christians do wait for the return of Jesus Christ, I think. We waited for Sofian Amrabat like nothing we've ever waited for like that. He was signed at the 11th hour of the transfer window. But guys, weren't we so excited when we eventually confirmed that Man United was signing this boy called Rasmus HOJLUND from Atalanta? Now, the fee is what perhaps got a lot of reservations, but also to those who look positive, who think positive, the fee meant that actually this boy could be good. So £72 million is what we paid to Atalanta for Rasmus HOJLUND, and he was wanted by teams like PSG and all. So there was a bit of a bidding war because PSG's bid was rejected by Atalanta, if you remember. But has this boy lived up to the expectations? Now, many will tell you he's young, he's only 20. Guys, don't you forget that Wayne Rooney, the greatest striker in the history of Manchester United, was 19 when he joined Manchester United in 2004 from Everton. We signed him for an initial £20 million with an option of a further £7 million. In his first season, Wayne Rooney at Manchester United, he scored 17 goals in 43 appearances. Now, don't tell me about age because the younger, the better anyway. But also, you have got as a player to justify your price tag. So here I am to give my scorecard on whether Rasmus HOJLUND has done it or whether he looks like he can do it. You can join me and give your opinion on this boy. Now, he dropped an interview talking about how the number 9 position has changed, has evolved, which is true that these days, especially with his manager Eric Ten Hag, he wants the striker to be involved in the play, to be pressing high. When we don't have the ball, he wants the striker to be more involved, the work rate of the striker. But I think about it and I'm thinking, so is he saying that Wayne Rooney was ahead of the time because Rooney was pressing high while he was scoring goals. So pressing high should not be an excuse for a striker to struggle to score goals. But the reality is, Rasmus HOJLUND, I think for me, has shown us to everyone that he actually is a good striker because of his position awareness, because of his work rate, because of his instincts. I think he has got the goal scoring instincts with him in him rather. If you judge by the goal he scored against Aston Villa, I tell people that that was a difficult goal to score, not because it was so technical, but the instinct in that time of the game for you to have that instinct to calmly press that ball in the far corner. It takes a good striker to do that. Give that to Yaya Sanogo or Nicolas Bentner, and trust me, or Walt Weghorst, he wouldn't have scored that. So I think he has got the attributes. Most importantly, his position awareness and work rate because he comes and gets himself involved in play and is good with 1-2s and all and hold up play and all, which for me gives good signs of a striker. But for someone we bought for £72 million, I don't care the age, I don't care where he came from. I mean, by the time the Man United agreed to pay £72 million for you, in this day and age when you don't have money, when every nickel, every penny we have matters, I think you've got to be able to pay, to justify it. Now, HOJLUND has scored only 2 Premier League goals and 5 Champions League goals. So in total, he has scored 7 goals in his at his time at Manchester United. And of course, there is more. The season is still nearly just over halfway. But does it look like he can score more? Yes, he does. But the only problem, though, is I think the 7 goals are not entirely down to him. I think the 7 goals are down to two things. One, they are decent by judging by the standards of United, the club is playing for. Because I mean, Rooney scored 17 goals playing with players like Ryan Giggs. He had Paul Scholes in there. He was playing with some of the best players in the world. He was being fed balls when he was at United. So we can't compare the two. But HOJLUND is playing with Scott McTominay. The other day he's playing with Marcus Rashford, a selfish Marcus Rashford, Anthony. So you try and compare the two, and you perhaps understand why this boy is struggling. I'm thinking, put this Hoyland in that team, he could have scored more by now. But going back to Hoyland and his 6 months, whereas he has proved to us that he can score goals, for me, my disquiet is with his finishing. Even when partly he has scored few goals because of selfish Rashford, selfish Garnacho at times, a useless Anthony, and all these players who have not been feeding him. When he started getting the balls, he has struggled to bury even what would be obvious chances for him. That's for me where my issues are. That he has not entirely been as clinical, and you want to ask yourself why, because this is something important. If you're a striker, you've got to be clinical. You've got to bury at least one of every three chances you get. There is a point where I felt, after us crying and complaining about the selfishness of some of these players he's been playing with, Hoyland started getting a bit of the balls, but he was not burying the chances as much. Maybe it's the pressure and he's failing to calm himself, but we know, and I know for a fact, that this boy cannot flop at Manchester United. But also, partly why he has struggled to score more goals, I think, is because he needs to score 10 more goals for him to be at the level of Wayne Rooney in his first season. And if that happens, we know we have our Wayne Rooney in the making. But partly also because of the manager. I think Eric Ten Hag has has not does not improve individual players that much. I don't think Eric Ten Hag is the manager, and he has spoken about wanting to do that in this winter break and all, trying to focus on individual players and trying to see how he can improve them. I hope he does, but I think Eric Ten Hag has struggled to improve players individually. Later on, the entire team, the squad, I don't think the squad has improved, in anything. There's no consistency in anything we've been doing, at least until the Spurs game, the last game we played. We are hoping against Newport things will change. But Hoyland's struggles are not him, I think. Yes, he can be a little more clinical, but I think that is what is there for him to learn. His positional awareness, there is not so much he can improve. He's always in the right places at the right time. He's always reporting right. He doesn't come late. He's not a late comer, always reporting on time in the right places. But he has lacked a bit of clinical, but the final touch has been wanting a bit. That can improve, and as a young player of 20, there is more he can improve. But I love his attitude. I love his mentality. He was talking about how he's enjoying Manchester. I told you these players stay. Most of these players stay together. When you enter Carrington, I told you Carrington is a private space. Like most of these, club training grounds are private entities, areas. So you enter Carrington, you don't come out. If you continue that way into Carrington, it leads you to where most of these players stay. The Rasmus HOJLUNDs, Johnny Evans, Tom Heaton, I saw Anthony Martial. They all stay. Alejandro Garnacho. Most of them stay in the same direction. So it's a good thing. He said he loves it in Manchester, and that's important for a player coming from a foreign country to love the place they are playing in, because it's important. These are 20-year-old kids who want to enjoy their life as they play football. They can only play good football if they're enjoying their life. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, and for all the factors I've mentioned, I'm going to give, because Hoyland just needs to score 10 goals for the rest of the season. Now, we're out of the Champions League, we're still in the FA Cup. I think he can score 10 goals, by the way, if you compare, because he's our lead striker. He's going to be playing most of the games. So I think he can still make 17 goals in his first season. That is what Ryan Rooney scored in his first season from Everton. So on a scale of 1 to 10, given the rot of the squad that he came into, I would give Rasmus HOJLUND a decent 7 out of 10. Tell me your opinion. How much would you give him 6 months into his stay at Manchester United? My name is Webb. This is the United Hotspot, and let's get to enjoy this time of Sir Jim Ratcliffe and co. Subscribe.